Top 10 most famous architectural landmarks in the world. Long before modern machines, computer modeling, and advanced construction equipment, human beings were already building structures that seemed impossible. They raised enormous stones into the sky, they carved cities directly into mountains, they created temples, tombs, fortifications, arenas, and monuments that would survive wars, earthquakes, changing empires, and thousands of years of history. Some of these structures were designed to protect entire civilizations. Others were built to honor rulers, celebrate fate, remember to death, or demonstrate political power. And some began as controversial experiments, only to become symbols recognized across the world. Architecture is more than the creation of shelter. It is a record of human ambition. Every column, arch, dome, wall, and tower tells something about the society that created it. The materials reveal what people could access, the design reflects their beliefs, the scale demonstrates their resources and political organization. Even the location can show how a civilization understood nature, religion, defense, and power. When we enter an ancient building, we are not simply walking through stone, we are entering an imagination of people who lived centuries before us. We see the problems they attempt to solve, we see the ideas they consider beautiful, and we see how architecture can outlive the people, governments, and cultures responsible for its creation. Modern landmarks tell a similar story. The Sydney Opera House demonstrates how a daring idea can change the identity of an entire city. The Eiffel Tower shows how a temporary exhibition structure can become a national symbol. The Statue of Liberty represents how architecture and sculpture can carry political meaning across generations. In this video, we will travel across Asia, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, Australia, and North America. We will explore structures created over a period of more than 4,000 years. Some are single buildings, others are enormous architectural complexes extending across mountains, deserts, or ancient cities. Each landmark was selected for its global recognition, historical importance, architectural influence, and ability to represent the culture or period that produced it. This is not a scientific ranking, it is a journey through 10 of humanity's most recognizable architectural achievements. As we move from number 10 to number 1, consider one question. Which of these structures represents the greatest achievement? Is it the oldest, the largest, the most beautiful, or the one that changed architecture forever? We begin in Australia, Australia, where the collection of the white shells appears to rise from the edge of the Sydney Harbour. Number 10. Sydney Opera House, Australia. At number 10 is the Sydney Opera House in Australia. Today, its wide roof forms are recognized around the world. They have been compared to ship sails, seashells, waves, and birds preparing to fly. But when the project was first proposed, no one knew exactly how this shape could be constructed. The story began with an international design competition. The winning concept came from Danish architect John Utjon, whose drawings presented a building unlike the conventional theaters of the period. Instead of a single rectangular structure, Utjon imagined a series of sculptural roof forms rising above a platform beside the harbor. The location was essential. The building would stand on the Danelon Point, surrounded by water on the three sides. It needed to function as a performing arts center, but it has also to respond to one of the world's most dramatic urban landscapes. Uton's design did more than place a theater beside the harbor. It transformed the entire site into a public monument. Visitors would climb broad steps and enter a building that seemed to grow from the water. Yet the roof created an enormous engineering challenge. The original curved shapes could not be constructed efficiently using the available methods. Engineers and architects tested several geometric approaches before developing what became known as the spherical solution. The roof sections could be derived from the surface of a single sphere, allowing repeated components to be manufactured and assembled more systematically. The Sydney Opera House describes this realization as a major milestone in 20th century architecture. The solution created a family of related shapes rather than a collection of completely different curves. It demonstrated how geometry, engineering, and visual imagination could work together. The exterior shelves were covered with more than 1 million ceramic tiles. From a distance, the roofs appear bright white. Up close, however, the surface contains a pattern of glossy and matte tiles that respond differently to sunlight. This prevents the building from appearing flat or excessively reflective. Construction was long, expensive, and politically difficult. Disagreements eventually led Ujjol to leave Australia before the building was completed. Other architectures continued the project, particularly the interior spaces. The Opera House officially opened in 1973. Although Ujjol did not return to see the completed building in person, his architectural vision remained central to his identity. The structure later received international recognition as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Its importance lies not only in its appearance but also in its design and construction innovations. The Opera House is prized as a breakthrough in modern architecture and one of the world's most admired buildings. Inside, the complex contains multiple performance venues rather than a single hall. Opera, music, theater, dance, and public events take place throughout the year. Outside, the steps and waterfront have become public gathering spaces. Even people who never attend a performance can experience the architecture by walking around it, viewing it from a ferry, or watching the building change color at sunset. The Sydney Opera House demonstrates how one structure can reshape a city's identity. Before its construction, Sydney was already a major harbour city. Afterward, its skyline gained an image that could be recognized instantly anywhere in the world. The building does not simply sit beside the harbor, it participates in the harbor. It forms to respond to water, movement, and light. The structure also reminds us that great architecture is not always created through a smooth process. The project involved technical uncertainty, financial pressure, political conflict, and personal disappointment. Yet, the final building became more influential than almost any in bold could have predicted. Our next landmark is a powerful symbol of a city, but instead of risking beside a harbor, it stands on an island at the entrance to New York. Number 9. Statue of Liberty, United States. At number 9 is the Statue of Liberty in New York. It is a both monumental sculpture and an architectural achievement. Standing at the entrance to New York Harbor, the figure holds a torch above her head and a tablet in her other hand. For generations of people arriving by sea, it became one of the first images of the United States. The monument was a gift from France and was inaugurated in 1886. It was created by French sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi, while Gustave Eiffel was responsible for the supporting metal framework. Bartholdi imagined a colossal female finger represents liberty, but creating a statue of this size required more than sculpture. The outer copper surface needed to stand with wind, temperature change, and movement without becoming dangerously rigid. The solution was to suspend the copper skin from an internal iron framework. This allowed the exterior to respond slightly to environmental forces. The monument was therefore not carved from a single mass of stone. It functioned more like a lightweight mantle skin supported by an internal skeleton. This relationship between surface and structure was highly innovative. The statue's copper plates were shaped using a technique in which metal was hammered into forms. The completed components were assembled in France, displayed, taken apart, transported across the Atlantic, and reconstructed in New York. Meanwhile, the United States were responsible for constructing the pedestal. Fundraising became a public challenge involving donations from many ordinary citizens. The, this, history, this history gave the project a meaning beyond government diplomacy. Its completion depends on cooperation between nations, engineers, artists, and members of the public. The statue's imagery contains several symbols. The torch represents enlightenment. The tablet bears the date of the United States Declaration of Independence. A broken chain lies near the finger's feet, representing liberation from oppression. The crown, the crown rays extend outward, giving the finger a global rather than a purely national appearance. Over time, the copper surface reacted with the environment and developed the green patina seen today. This layer is not simply dirt or paint. It is a chemical transformation that also helps protect the underlying metal. The monument's most powerful meaning developed through immigration. Millions of immigrants entered the United States through New York Harbor. For many, the statue represented the end of a dangerous journey and the beginning of a new life. UNESCO knows that the monument has welcomed millions of immigrants since its inauguration. The Statue of Liberty has therefore become connected to freedom, migration, opportunity, and national identity. Yet the monument also encouraged debate. The ideal of liberty represented by the statue has not always matched the experience of every person living in the United States. This tension gives the landmark continued relevance. It does not simply celebrate an achievement, it also establishes a standard against which society can be judged. Architecturally, the statue demonstrates the power of combining engineering with symbolic art. The internal framework makes the outer finger possible. The pedestal raises the statue above the harbor. The island location allows it to be seen from far away. Every part supports a political and emotional effect. But our next landmark was not built as a symbol of freedom. It was created as a place of worship, and construction has continued across several generations. Number 8. Sagrada Familia, Spain. At number 8 is the Basilica de la Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Few buildings demonstrate the relationship between architecture, nature, and religious symbolism as dramatically as its unfinished basilica. Its towers rise above the city unlike enormous stone plants. Its surfaces contain sculptures, geometric patterns, biblical scenes, and forms inspired by trees, flowers, bones, and mountains. The building is most closely associated with Catalan architect Antoni Gaudí. He didn't begin the original project, but after taking responsibility for it, he completely transformed its direction. Instead, instead of following a conventional Gothic design, Gothic developed an architectural rhetoric that combined Gothic traditions, complex geometry, structural exper- experimentation, and observations from nature. For Gaudi, nature was not simply decoration. It provided structural lessons. Trees trunks bent to support leaves, bones distribute weight through curved forms, shells achieve strength without unnecessary material. Gaudi studied these principles and translated them into architecture. Inside the basilica, columns rise like trees and divided into branches near the ceiling. The result resembles a stone forest. Light enters through colored glass and changes throughout the day. Warm colors dominate certain sides, while cooler blues and greens appear elsewhere. The interior does not feel like a dark medieval cathedral. It feels alive, changing as sunlight moves across the building. The exterior tells a different story. Several fa- faces present different stages in the life of Jesus. The Nativity faces is dealt with natural and religious imagery. Its surface appears almost to grow from the stone. The Passion faces is more severe. Its fingers and lines create a sharper, more emotional atmosphere. Gaudi understood that he would not live to see the basilica completed. He therefore focused on models, drawings, and sections that future architects could interpret. After he died in 1926, work continued. The project experienced interruptions, including damage to plans and models during the Spanish Civil War. Later, architects relied on surviving fragments, photographs, and reconstructed models. This has created continuing debate. Some critics question whether completing the building according to modern interpretations can truly represent Gaudi's intentions. Others argue that evolving multi-generational process is consistent with the history of large European cathedrals. The Sagrada Familia is unusual because visitors can observe history being created in real time. Ancient monuments are normally presented as finished remains from the past. Here, stoneworkers, engineers, architects, and digital technologies continue to shape the structure. Computer modeling and advanced manufacturing now assist with forms that Goli originally explored through physical models and hanging chain experiments. The basilica therefore connects 19th century imagination with 21st century technology. It is a building from the past that is still becoming part of the future. Its fame, its fame comes partly from incompleteness. Every generation has seen a different version of the skyline. Photographs take decades apart reveal towers appearing one after another. The final result would not belong to a single moment or individual. It will represent the labor of thousands of people across more than a century. The Sagrada Familia asks an important question. Can a building remain the work of one architect when so many others complete it? Perhaps its greatest meaning lies in that uncertainty. It's not only a monument, it is an ongoing conversation between design, fate, history, and time. Our next structure presents a completely different form of power. It was built to entertain tens of thousands of people at the center of Roman Empire. Number 7. The Colosseum, Italy. At number 7 is the Colosseum in Rome. Nearly 2,000 years after its construction, the structure remains one of the clearest symbols of Roman Empire. Its exterior are recognized instantly, but the true achievement becomes more expensive when we understand how the building functioned. The Colosseum was not simply a large circle of stone, it was a highly organized entertainment machine. Its official ancient name was the Flavian Amphitheater. Construction began under Emperor Vespasian, and the building was inaugurated under his son Titus. The amphitheater hosted gladiatorial combat, animal hunts, executions, and public spectacles. These events were violent, but they served important political and social purposes. They allow emperors to display wealth, power, and generosity while controlling large public gatherings. The Colosseum could accommodate tens of thousands of spectators. Moving such a crowd safety required careful organization. The exterior contained numerous entrances and stairways. Spectators were directed towards different seating areas according to social status. Passes and staircases allowed a large number of people to enter and leave efficiently. Many modern stadiums use similar principles: separate entrances, numbered sections, circulating corridors, and tiered seating all have ancient precedents. The Colosseum's design therefore influenced the architecture of public entertainment long after the Roman Empire disappeared. The structure used arches, bolts, concrete, and stone. Different levels employ different classic orders, creating visual variation across the facades. The repeated arch distributed weight while giving the enormous building a sense of rhythm. Below the arena floor was a complex system now known as the hypogame. This network contained corridors, cages, equipment, and spaces used to prepare performers and animals. Platforms and lifting mechanisms could bring people, scenery, and animals into the arena. From the audience perspective, unexpected events could appear suddenly through openings in the floor. The building was therefore not only architectural, it depended on stage technology. A large fabric cover known as the velarium could provide shade for spectators. Operating it required ropes, masks, and skilled workers. These figures reveal how Roman engineering combined structure, logistics, and public performance. The Colosseum did not survive unchanged. Earthquakes damaged the structure, stone was removed and reused in other buildings. Different parts served as workshops, residences, and religious spaces. What remains today is not only part of the original amphitheater, that this incomplete condition has become part of its identity. UNESCO includes the Colosseum among the monuments of incomparable artistic value within the historic center of Rome. The structure also represents a difficult history. Its beauty and engineering brilliance were connected to violence, inequality, and imperial authority. People and animals suffered for public entertainment. Recognizing the building's architectural importance does not require ignoring the events that occur within it. Instead, the Colosseum allows us to study the complexity of civilization. A society capable of remarkable engineering could also create highly organized forms of cruelty. Today, millions of visitors walk through spaces once filled with noise and spectacle. The arena is quiet, the empire is gone, but the architecture remains powerful enough to make the past feel immediate. Our next landmark is not a single arena or temple. It is a vast defensive system crossing mountains, valleys, and deserts. Number 6. The Great Wall of China. And number 6 is the Great Wall of China. Many people imagine it as one continuous wall built at a single moment. In reality, it is a vast collection of walls, barriers, trenches, towers, and fortifications constructed, rebuilt, and connected across many centuries. Different states and dynasties created defensive systems along China's northern regions. The most famous surviving sections are strongly associated with the Ming Dynasty, but the larger history extends much further into the past. UNESCO describes the Great Wall as a vast military defense system built from the 3rd century BC to the 17th century AD, extending for more than 20,000 kilometers when its many components are considered. The wall followed geography. Rather than crossing the landscape in a straight line, it climbed ridges, crossed valleys, and adapted to natural obstacles. Mountains became part of the defensive system. High position allowed soldiers to observe movement across large distances. Watchtowers provided communication and shelter. Signals using smoke, fire, or other methods could transmit warnings. Construction materials varied by region. In areas where stone was available, builders used stone. Elsewhere, they relied on compacted earth, wood, reeds, or bricks. This variation shows that the Great Wall was not one standardized object. It was a practical response to different environments, resources, and military needs. Building it demanded enormous labor. Soldiers, workers, prisoners, and local populations participated across different periods. The war therefore represents both organizational achievement and human suffering. Its cultural meaning is inseparable from the lives spent building and defending it. The wall was never an impenetrable barrier. No fortification can prevent every invasion. Its value comes from slowing movement, directing travelers toward controlled passes, supporting military communication, and making territory. Gates also played an economic role. They regulate movement, trade, and taxation. The Great Wall was therefore not simply a line separating China from the outside world. It was a it was a part of a broader system of contact, control, and exchange. Different sections today present very different conditions. Some near Beijing have been carefully restored and receive large number of visitors. Other sections remain ruined, overgrown, or difficult to access. In remote regions, walls of compacted earth may appear as low ridges rather than the dramatic stone structure seen in travel photographs. This variety is essential to understanding the monument. The Great Wall is not only the perfect restored section climbing green mountains, it is also every damaged tower, eroded barrier, and archaeological trace that records the changing history of the frontier. Its symbolic meaning has grown over time. UNESCO describes it as having incomparable significance in Chinese history and culture. The word has appeared in literature, art, politics, and national identity. It represents endurance, defense, and unity. Yet it can also symbolize isolation and the cost of political power. Standing on the wall, visitors experience more than architecture. They see how human construction can follow the scale of a landscape. The structure disappears across ridges, reappears in the distance, and seems to continue beyond the horizon. Our next landmark also responds dramatically to its environment, but instead of being built across the mountain, it was carved directly into rose-colored rock. Number 5. Petra, Jordan. At number 5 is Petra in Jordan. The first view of Petra's most famous facade is carefully hidden. Visitors enter through the Sikh, a narrow draught surrounded by towering rock walls. The passage twists gradually. Light appears and disappears. Then, through a narrow opening, part of an enormous carved facade becomes visible. As a gorge opens, the treasury stands directly ahead. This controlled arrival is one of the most romantic architectural experiences in the world. The building appears suddenly, but the city behind it developed through centuries of trade, engineering, and cultural exchange. Petra was an important city of the Nabateans. Its location between major regi- regional routes connect Arabia, Egypt, Syria, and the Mediterranean world. Trade in the valuable goods contributed to the city's wealth. UNESCO describes Petra as a Nabatean caravan city and a crossroads where ancient Eastern traditions blended with Hellenistic architecture. The architecture reflects this mixing of cultures. Classical columns and decorative forms appear alongside local traditions, but Petra's uniqueness comes from the way many structures were carved into rock rather than assembled from separate blocks. The famous treasury or Al-Khanel is not a freestanding building in the conventional sense. Its facade is cut directly into the sandstone cliff. Behind it are interior chambers. The name Cherries comes from the later legends, but the structure was properly associated with burial and ceremonial functions. Petra contains far more than the treasury. There are tombs, temples, streets, a theater, religious spaces, and remains of residential and commercial life. Some structures were carved, others were constructed. UNESCO describes the city as half built and half carved into the rock. Perhaps the city's greatest achievement was its management of water. Petra exists in a dry environment where rainfall can be limited, but sudden floods can be dangerous. The Nabateans developed channels, dams, cisterns, and pipelines to collect, control, and store water. The system supports residents, agriculture, and visiting caravans. The architecture of Pera therefore cannot be separated from hydraulic engineering. The dramatic facades attract attention, but the hidden water infrastructure made urban life possible. The color of the sandstone changes with light. Walls can appear pink, red, orange, or purple. Natural layers create patterns across the carved surfaces. This gives each structure a visual complexity that no applied decoration could fully reproduce. The material itself becomes part of the design. Petrol later declined as street routes changed the earthquake affected the region. The city was never completed unknown to local communities, but it became less familiar to the wider Western world until 19th century travelers and scholars brought new international attention. Modern tourism creates both opportunity and pressure. Visitors support regional economy, but heavy foot traffic, erosion, weather, and development threaten fragile surfaces. Petra is not simply a collection of photogenic facades. It is a living cultural landscape requiring careful protection. The city demonstrates how architecture can emerge from the environment rather than being placed on top of it. The mountains provide material, structure, defense, and visual identity. Petra is not beside the rock, it is within the rock. Our next landmark was also constructed as a monument connected to death, but instead of being carved into cliffs, it was created from white marble and arranged around symbol symmetry. Number 4. Taj Mahal, India. At number 4 is the Taj Mahal in Agra, India. It is often described as a monument to love. Thus, that description is powerful, but it represents not only part of a much larger architectural achievement. The Taj Mahal was commissioned by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan as a mausoleum associated with his wife Munta Mahal. The complex combines architecture, landscape, water, calligraphy, stone carving, and carefully controlled symmetry. UNESCO regarded it as one of the greatest achievements of Indo-Islamic architecture. The visitor's experience begins before the mausoleum appears. The entrance gateway frames the distant white structure. As a person moves forward, the Tamaha seems to change sign. A long reflecting pool emphasizes the central axis. Gardens divide the space into carefully organized sections. Trees, paths, and water guide the eye to path toward the tomb. Nothing in this approach feels accidental. The central mausoleum stands on a raised platform. Four minarets mark its corners. The main dome raised above smaller dome forms. The entire composition creates balance. From a distance, the building appears simple and calm. Up close, it reveals extraordinary detail. The white marble surface contains carved patterns, calligraphy, and inlaid stones. Flowers and geometric designs are created through precise craftsmanship. One of the building's most remarkable effects comes from light. At sunrise, the marble may appear soft and pink. Under strong Under stronger daylight, it becomes bright white. At sunset, it can take on warmer colors. The structure therefore changes without physically moving. Weather, atmosphere, and sunlight become part of the architecture. The Tamaha is often treated as a single building, but it is a part of a larger complex. Other structures move by balance and support ceremonial functions. The surrounding landscape and river are essential to the composition. Symmetry dominates much of the design, but there are meaningful exceptions. The emperor's own tomb was later placed beside Muta Maha's tombs, disrupting the perfect central symmetry of the interior burial arrangement. The engineering achievement is equally important. Builders had to create stable foundations near the Yamuna River. The enormous dome, marble surfaces, and minarets require carefully planning. The minarets are positioned slightly away from the central tomb, reducing the risk that a collapse would fall directly onto the mausoleum. Construction requires architects, engineers, calligraphers, stoneworkers, and artisans from different regions. The complex represents the combined skill of a vast workforce rather than the vision of one person alone. The Tamaha also raises questions about power. Its beauty was made possible by imperial wealth and labor. It was both a, it was both a personal memorial and a statement of Mughal authority. This combination is common in monumental architecture. Private emotion becomes public display. Grief becomes stone. Memory becomes political symbolism. Today, the Tamaha faces environmental and conservation pressures. Air pollution, water conditions, tourism, and regional development can affect the site. UNESCO documentation records long-running environmental protection efforts around the monument. The Tamaha remains famous because its emotional message is immediate. Even visitors who know little about Mughal history understand that the structure was intended to preserve memory. Its symmetry creates calm, its marble creates light, its scale creates awe, and its story transforms architecture into a form of remembrance. Our next landmark is much older. It was built when many of today's famous civilizations did not yet exist. Number 3. The Great Pyramid of Giza, Egypt. Number 3 is the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. It is the largest of the pyramids at Giza and the only surviving wonder from the traditional list of the seven wonders of the ancient world. For thousands of years, it was the tallest human-made structure on Earth. Its shapes appear simple, for triangular sides rise toward a single point. But behind this geometry lies one of history's greatest construction achievements. The pyramid was built as a royal tomb associated with Pharaoh Khufu during Egypt's Old Kingdom. It formed part of a larger funerary complex containing temples, causeways, smaller pyramids, and burial areas. Today, the surface appears rough and steep. Originally, however, the pyramid was covered with smooth casing stones. These reflected sunlight and gave the monument a more precise, polished appearance. Much of that ethereal material was later removed or lost. The remaining core reveals the enormous block beneath. The scale is difficult to understand through photographs. Standing near the base, individual stones can be nearly as tall as a person. The monument contains millions of blocks, though estimates vary. Transporting, shaping, and positioning this material require planning across many years. Popular culture often represents the pyramid as an explained mystery, but treating it as impossible can unintentionally dismiss the knowledge and organization of ancient Egyptians. Archaeological evidence shows that Egyptian society possessed mathematics, surveying techniques, skilled labor, administrative system, and experience from early pyramid projects. The Great Pyramid did not appear from nowhere. It was a result of generations of architecture development. Earlier structures, including step pyramids and other royal tombs, provide lessons in design and construction. The pyramid's alignment is remarkably precise. Its sides correspond closely to cardinal directions. Achieving this requires careful observation and surveying. The structural internal passages and chambers add further complexity. The king chamber, grand gallery, and other spaces demonstrate control over enormous loads. Large stone elements were placed to distribute weight and protect internal areas. Researchers continue to study how the pyramid was built. Different ramp systems, lifting methods, and construction sequences have been proposed. No single simplified explanation resolves every detail. However, uncertainty about the exact process does not require supernatural theories. The real human achievement is already extraordinary enough. The pyramid represents the ability of an ancient state to organize materials, food, workers, transportation, and technical knowledge on a massive scale. The people who built it were not simply anonymous forced laborers in a popular movie image. Evidence indicates the presence of organized workers, skilled teams, and support settlements. Construction depended on an entire social system. The monument was intended to serve religious and political purposes. The pharaoh tombs connected royal power with beliefs about death, rebirth, and the divine order. Its massive form dominated the landscape. Long after the ruler died, the pyramid continued to demonstrate the authority of the state that created it. The Giza Plateau contains other pyramids and the Sphinx, creating one of the most important architectural landscapes in human history. Modern car roads now extend close to the site. They create a skiing contrast between ancient monuments and contemporary city. The pyramid no longer stands alone in an empty desert, despite the impression created by selected camera angles. It exists within a living and expanding urban environment. The Great Pyramid remains powerful because of its age. When later civilizations built famous temples and cities, the pyramid was already ancient. When the Roman Colosseum opened, the Great Pyramid has stood for more than 2,500 years. Its survival makes this story visible. Our next landmark is much younger and was originally criticized as an ugly temple structure. Today, it is one of the most recognizable images on Earth. Number 2. The Eiffel Tower, France. At number two is the Eiffel Tower in Paris. It is difficult to imagine Paris without it. The tower appears on postcards, films, paintings, advertisements, and souvenirs. It represents romance, engineering, and the identity of France. That many influential artists and writers initially opposed its construction. The tower was created for the 1889 Paris World's Fair. The project emerged from the engineering company of Gustave Eiffel. Engineers Maurice Koechlin and Emily Noguer developed the initial concept, while architect Stephen Stovez helped transform its appearance. The official Eiffel Tower history explained that Gustave Eiffel himself was not the first person to conceive the 300-meter tower. The design used iron lattice work. Instead of hiding the structure behind heavy walls, the tower made its structural system visible. Thousands of, thousands of metal components were prepared with precision and connected using rivets. The open form reduced wind resistance while creating a structure of unprecedented height. At its inauguration in 1889, the tower was known as the 300-meter tower and became the tallest tower in the world. Antennas later increased its total height. The tower's curved profile was not random decoration. Its shapes responded to wind forces and structural requirements. The wide base distributes loads. The legs rise inward as the structure becomes lighter. The result is both technical and visually elegant. Before construction, critics described the project as a threat to the beauty of Paris. A famous protest signed by artists and intellectuals attacked the proposed tower as useless and monstrous. The official Eiffel Tower history preserves this criticism. This reaction reveals an important pattern in architecture. Structures that later become beloved can initially appear shocking because they challenge familiar ideas. 19th century Paris was known for stone facades, classical monuments, and carefully planned boulevards. The exposed iron towers seemed industrial, mechanical, and unfinished. It did not resemble a traditional palace, church, or monument, but this difference became its greatest strength. The tower celebrated a new age of engineering. It was originally expected to remain for a limited period. Its continued usefulness for scientific experiments and radio communication helped preserve it. Gustave Eiffel promoted research at the tower, including work related to meteorology, aerodynamics, and communications. The structure therefore gained practical value beyond the exhibition. Over time, public opinion changed. The tower became connected to major events in French history. It served as a communications platform, survived occupation and war, and became central to celebrations and national imagery. Visitors now reach viewing platforms using stairs and elevators. The elevators themselves require innovative engineering because they travel through the curved legs. At night, lighting transforms the structure. During the day, it open ironwork frames the city. From different streets, the tower appears unexpectedly between buildings. Its relationship with Paris changes according to distance. Up close, it is an enormous mechanical structure. From across the river, it becomes a delicate silhouette. From far away, it serves as an orientation point from the entire city. Temperature also affects the iron structure. Metal expands in heat and contracts in cold, meaning the tower can change slightly in size. This detail reminds us that even the strongest landmark is not completely static. It moves in wind, responds to sunlight, and changes with temperature. The Eiffel Tower represents the movement when engineering itself became a monumental art. Its beauty does not hide its structure is beauty. But one landmark takes the number one position. It combines architecture, landscape, craftsmanship, symmetry, and emotional meaning in a form recognized across cultures. Number one, the Tamaha, a final reconsideration. Before revealing number one, we must confront the difficulty of this ranking. The Great Pyramid is older, the Great Wall is larger, the Eiffel Tower transformed engineering into a national symbol. The Tamaha may be the most visually balanced monument on this list, but the number one position belongs to a structure that represents not just one building, but the enduring human desire to create something that outlives its markers. The most famous architectural landmark in the world is the Great Pyramid of Giza. Number one, the Great Pyramid of Giza, Egypt. The Great Pyramid takes number one position because it brings together age, skill, engineering, symbolism, and survival in a way no other structure can fully match. More than 4,000 years after its construction, it continues to generate wonder. Its architects work without modern cranes, steel frames, electric tools, or computer models. That they created a structure whose fundamental geometry remains clear and powerful today. The pyramid does not depend on decoration for its effect. Its form is reduced to basic geometry: a square bay, four raising faces, a single point directed toward the sky. This simplicity allows the structure to communicate across cultures and generations. A person does not need to understand Egyptian religion to recognize its importance. The scale immediately tells us that it was built for more than ordinary human use. The pyramid represents permanence. Ancient Egyptians connected royal burial with cosmic order and afterlife. The structure must protect the burial spaces and transform the ruler tombs into part of the landscape. It resembles a human-made mountain. Unlike a palace, it was not designed primarily for everyday occupation. Its, its purpose was simply spiritual and eternal. The pyramid's survival has not been perfect. Its casing stone are mostly gone. Internal spaces were entered and altered. Time, weather, and human activity affected the site. That the essential form remains. Imagine seeing it when nearly completed. The surface would have been smoother and brighter. Sunlight would have reflected across the casing. The summit would have appeared sharp and precise. The structure would have dominated a landscape without modern towers, aircraft, or electric lights. To ancient observers, it may have seemed less like a building and more like a permanent object from heavens. The pyramid also forced us to reconsider assumptions about ancient technology. Technological ability is not measured only through electronics or machines. It includes organization, geometry, material knowledge, and the ability to coordinate people. The builders understood how to prepare site, establish levels, orient the structure, move enormous materials, and maintain a consistent plan over years of construction. This achievement depended on society. Farmers grew food, officials record supplies, craftspeople created tools, boat crews transported stone, surveyors established measurements, workers shaped and positioned blocks. The pyramid is therefore not the product of one mysterious genius. It is the visible result of an entire civilization working toward a shared project. Its, con- its construction reveals political power, religious belief, and economic organization. The pyramid has inspired endless theories. Some are serious archaeological proposals, others involve aliens, lost technologies, or supernatural forces. These ideas may seem entertaining, but they often distract from the more meaningful explanation. Human beings built it. The fact should increase our admiration rather than reduce it. The pyramid's mystery is not whether humans were capable. The mystery lies in reconstructing every detail of how capable they were. Modern research continues. Scientists use scanning, imaging, and archaeological investigation to study hidden spaces and construction methods. New discoveries do not make the pyramid less extraordinary. They show that a structure can remain intellectually alive thousands of years after completion. The Great Pyramid is architecture, engineering, religious monument, political statement, and archaeological record at the same time. It is famous not because it belongs to one modern country or tourism campaign. It is famous because it stands near the beginning of monumental architectural history. When the Colosseum was built, the Great Pyramid was already ancient. When the medieval cathedral rose across Europe, it had already survived for thousands of years. When the Eiffel Tower became the tallest structure of its time, the pyramid had witnessed the rise and fall of countless states and empires. Its longevity changed our sense of time. Human lives feel brief beside it. Cities transform, languages disappear, borders move, but the triangular form remains on the horizon. This is why the Great Pyramid takes the number one position, not because it is the most complex structure ever built, not because it is the largest building in the modern world, but because it demonstrates the earliest extraordinary reach of human architectural ambition. It proves that thousands of years ago, people were already imagining structures designed not merely to serve the present, but to communicate with eternity. Comparing the top 10 landmarks. These 10 landmarks represent very different architectural purposes. The Sydney Opera House was created for performance and public culture. Its rough geometry helped modern architecture become part of a city's visual identity. The Statue of Liberty combines sculpture, engineering, and political symbolism. Its meaning developed through migration and the idea of freedom. The Sagrada Familia connects religion, nature, craftsmanship, and modern technology in a project extending across generations. The Colosseum demonstrates the organization and engineering power of ancient Rome while also preserving the memory of violent public entertainment. The Great Wall represents defense, communication, and territorial control across the enormous landscape. Petra shows how a city can be carved from the environment and sustained through intelligent water management. The Tamaha transformed grit and imperial power into symmetry, marble, and light. The Great Pyramid represents the organizational and spiritual ambition of ancient Egypt. The Eiffel Tower demonstrates how a controversial engineering experiment can become one of the most beloved symbols in the world. Each structure achieves greatness differently. Some impress through size, others through detail. Some dominate the landscape, others appear to become part of it. Ancient builders worked with stone, earth, timber, and simple metal tools. Modern architecture used steel, reinforced concrete, computers, and industrial manufacturing. But the central challenge remains the same. How can, a, how can an idea become physical reality? Architecture begins as imagination, a line on paper, a model, a measurement, a political decision, a religious belief, or desire to create something no one has seen before. Then the idea must confront gravity, weather, material limits, cost, labor, and time. Every completed landmark represents thousands of solved problems. This is why famous architecture is more than a background for travel photographs. It is a evidence of human decision making. These landmarks also require protection. age, pollution, overcrowding, climate, conflict, and careless development can threaten even the strongest structures. World famous status does not make a monument the indestructible. In fact, fame can create new risks by bringing enormous number of visitors. Preservation must balance access with protection. For future generations should be able to experience these structures without current tourism destroying the qualities that make them valuable. Architecture survives because people continue to care for it. Stone must be repaired, must be protected, water must be controlled, historic records must be studied, and sometimes difficult decisions must be made about which parts to restore and which sites of age should remain visible. A monument is not preserved by stopping time, it is preserved through continuous work. Conclusion. Across history, people have built for many reasons to survive, to worship, to defend territory, to entertain crowds, to honor the dead, to demonstrate power, to celebrate freedom, and sometimes simply to prove that an impossible idea could become real. The British landmarks are not only impressive because of their height or beauty, they are powerful because they preserve human intention. The Greek pyramid preserves a vision of eternity. The preserves memory. The Greek world preserves the history of portals and defense. Petra preserves the intelligence of a desert civilization. The Colosseum preserves the ambition and contradiction of Rome. The Sagrada Familia preserves an evolving artistic vision. The Statue of Liberty preserves an ideal. The Sydney Opera House preserves architectural courage. And the Eiffel Tower preserves the moment when modern engineering become art. These structures remind us that architecture can live longer than politics, fashion, individual memory. The builders may disappear, the original society may transform, the original purpose may change, but the structure can continue to speak. It speaks through proportion, through material, through light, through space, and through the emotions people experience when standing before it. Now it is your turn. Which of these architectural landmarks deserves the number one position? Will you choose the age and mystery of the Great Pyramid, the beauty of a Taj Mahal, the scale of Great Wall, the engineering of Eiffel Tower, or the extraordinary design of the Sydney Opera House? And which famous structure should have appeared in this countdown? Share the answer in the comments below. If you enjoy the journey through architectural history, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more documentaries about cities, countries, engineering, history, and the greatest achievement of humanity. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.